Hello again. Last time we talked about core action value number 4, courage, and I said fear is a reaction, courage is a decision. And today we talk about core action value number 5, perseverance. Fear is a reaction, courage is a decision, perseverance is making that decision every day, day after day. I have a little mini poster in my office. It's a reminder to me, and it says, every great accomplishment was once the impossible dream of a dreamer who refused to quit when the going got tough. And it's true. And the bigger your dream, the more you aspire to changing your life, changing the world, whatever it is, the bigger the challenges you're going to face. One of the things that's covered in the workbook that I hope you'll spend some time thinking about is the 12 laws of adversity. But if I had to summarize those 12 laws of adversity in just 2 phrases, I would pick 2 from authors that you, I hope, have heard of. One is Randy Pausch. Here's a guy, he wrote the book, The Last Lecture. You might have seen his video on YouTube, The Last Lecture. Here's a guy living the American dream. He's got a job he loves at Carnegie Mellon as a professor. He's got a beautiful family. He's diagnosed with pancreatic cancer and given less than 6 months to live. And instead of playing the role of the victim, why me, as he is dying, knowing he's dying, he spends his last months thinking about lessons, teaching us how to live. And in his book he said this, brick walls are not there to stop you, they're there to make you prove how much you want something. And the second law, or the second concept I would take to kind of capture the essence of these 12 laws of adversity is from W. Mitchell. And again, here's a guy who's got life by the tail. He's got a dream job. He's a brakeman on a San Francisco cable car. He told me there's no better way in the world to meet girls than being a brakeman on a cable car in San Francisco. And he's riding his motorcycle through the streets of San Francisco one day, and he's run over by a truck. The gas cap pops off, the tank explodes into flame, and he becomes a human torch. And he spends years in rehab. His face has been burned off, his hands have been burned off. He rebuilds his life. He moves to Colorado. He works in a small town. He helps start a company. He buys his own airplane with special controls that he can fly because he doesn't have hands anymore. And by the way, he ran for mayor. And his campaign slogan, not just another pretty face. And one day his plane crashed on takeoff, and now his back is broken, and not only is he disfigured seriously, now he's paralyzed. And he wrote a book called It's Not What Happens to You, It's What You Do About It. And those 2 things, brick walls are not there to stop you. They're there to make you prove how much you want something. And it's not what happens to you, it's what you do about it. Capture the essence of perseverance as a value and of the 12 laws of adversity. So let's talk about how you put action into that value of perseverance. And the first cornerstone is preparation. Harold Kushner wrote a book called When Bad Things Happen to Good People. And you know it's true. Bad things do happen to good people. They've happened to you. They will again. We know that. How do you prepare for bad things happening when you know they're going to happen, but you don't know exactly what they're going to be? You prepare very much the way a fire department prepares for a fire. They know there'll be another fire. They don't know where. It's going to be an office building, a mobile home, a restaurant. They don't know. So they prepare generically for the specific. Because you know bad things are going to happen to you. You're going to have problems with your health. You're going to have money troubles. You're probably going to have career and relationship problems. We all do. You prepare generically. And you do that at 4 levels. At a physical level, it takes stamina to deal with adversity. And the stronger you are, the more you're going to be able to take it all in stride. So take care of yourself, beginning by getting enough sleep. When you're sleep deprived, the first mental faculty to go away is the ability to think creatively. And when do you most need to be able to think creatively? When what you're doing now isn't working. So get enough sleep. Get exercise. There's an old samurai paradox. When your body is strong, it will bend to your commands. It'll do what you tell it to do. When your body is weak, you have to give in to its demands. And so keeping your body strong, and you don't have to go to the gym 6 hours a day, but 3, 4, 5 times a week, half an hour a day, keeping yourself in shape. Prepare yourself intellectually. Any problem that you can face has already been faced by somebody else, and they've written a book about it. If you're going to have health troubles, bookstores are full of books about how to deal with diabetes, how to deal with cancer, how to deal with heart disease, anything else that might come up. Go read one. You're going to have money troubles. Pick up a book about how to deal with money problems. One of my favorite titles on a book about money, Larry Winget wrote a book called You're Broke Because You Want to Be. A pretty good title, pretty good book. Prepare yourself emotionally. Create the kind of mental toughness that you need to have so that when bad things happen, and they will, you don't play the role of the victim. Poor me, why'd this have to happen to me? But rather you can deal with it. Say, oh yeah, this is the brick wall that I knew was coming. This is the bad thing Kushner said was going to be coming. And prepare yourself emotionally to not give in, to not be the victim. And prepare yourself spiritually, because the ultimate bad things that happen to us, the ultimate being the end of life, those are also spiritual challenges. And preparing yourself at a spiritual level can help you make sure that you persevere through whatever difficulties the world throws at you. One last thing about preparation. You have to avoid analysis paralysis. At some point you got to stop preparing and you got to start doing. And there's an old saying that really kind of captures how you balance the preparing and the doing. Prepare for the worst, expect the best, but then proceed until apprehended and get to work. The second cornerstone of perseverance is perspective. One of the great opening lines of any novel that's ever been written. It was the best of times, it was the worst of times. And what do we have today? The answer is yes. What do you choose to see? You can make a case that we really do have the best of times today. Or you can make the case, and many people are, that, oh, this is the worst of times. What do you choose to see? What you choose to see will substantially influence the assumptions you make and the actions you take, and thus the kind of results that you get. Some of the most successful businesses in America today were started during the years of the Great Depression. At a time when many people were throwing up their hands and saying end to the world, people like Bill Hewlett and Dave Packard and Walt Disney were building companies in the face of that economic crisis, companies that for decades on were successful, built on that foundation, having the courage to take a risk and the determination to keep at it even in difficult times. So a couple of things that can help you with perspective. And one, and this is very important, distinguish between problems and predicaments. A problem has a solution. A predicament does not have a solution. A problem is an alcoholic neighbor. They get out of line, you call the police. A predicament is an alcoholic mother-in-law living upstairs. She gets out of line and you have to live with it. Problems you can deal with, predicaments you have to live with. And anytime you catch yourself whining and complaining, ask yourself, is this a problem? And in that case, deal with it. Or is it a predicament? And in that case, stop complaining and just do what you have to do to live with it. It is obviously the underpinning of the famous serenity prayer. Having the courage to change what you can, having the serenity to live with what you cannot change, the wisdom to know the difference, and the decency to not whine or complain about either one. If it's a problem, deal with it. If it's a predicament, live with it. And I want to share a very practical but very powerful mindset tool that if you use it will completely change your perspective on adversity. A very good friend of mine, Father Michael Crosby, he's written many good books. He wrote a great biography of St. Francis, for example. But he wrote a book called Thank God Ahead of Time. And it's a biography of Brother Solanus Casey, who's a Capuchin monk like Mike is. And that was Brother Casey's philosophy. Thank God ahead of time. Whatever happens to you, say thank you, and then begin to look for the blessings. Anybody who's ever lost a job, talk to them 3, 6, maybe a year later. Ask them about the experience of losing a job, and what are they going to say? Best thing that ever could have happened. And if your attitude is, just lost my job, thank you, I don't know why, but I'll figure it out. You will have a much different approach to adversity than if you fall into that victim trap. And truly, anything that can happen to you, you can, by your conscious choice, find a way to create blessing. One of the support groups that I've worked with is Compassionate Friends. This is a support group for parents who have lost a child. I cannot think of a more devastating tragedy than losing a child. And you come to these meetings, and you know, they're not going to bring their children back, and there's no inherent blessing or goodness in the loss of a child, but to see how these parents create, they create meaning in a situation that inherently has no meaning. They're able to find some way to be thankful, even though the event itself was not a blessing. If someone can find a way to find the blessing in a tragedy like that, nothing can happen to you that you can't say, thank you, I don't know why yet, but I'll figure it out. For me personally, when I had LASIK eye surgery 6 years ago, and I ended up with really bad double vision. My eyes hurt all the time. I have impaired visual acuity. It was a big mistake. That simple commitment to say thank God for what has happened has helped me not feel sorry for myself and be a victim, but rather to make part of my personal mission in life to help other people make sure they ask the questions I should have asked and do the research I should have done before they allow somebody to cut on the only set of eyes they will ever have. And believe me, I like the me that is an activist a whole lot better than I would have liked the me who played the role of victim. And that gets me to the third cornerstone, which is toughness. Tony Robbins, in one of his books, he said that the ability to achieve success depends on the ability to endure massive frustration. And that takes toughness. It takes mental and emotional toughness. And as I said in the previous module, you need the person in your life who most needs tough love is you. But you need to learn how to be tough with yourself. Hold yourself up to high standards, high expectations, but not be tough on yourself by beating yourself up with negative self-talk and recrimination if you don't always live up to those standards. Learn how to accept total, complete responsibility for your circumstances. You are where you are today because of choices you made in the past, and for the outcomes you achieve in the future. You will be where you're going to be in the future because of decisions you make today and going forward. And don't blame anybody else. And the self-empowerment pledge is perhaps more right on target here than anywhere else in this course. And if you internalize the first three promises, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, responsibility, accountability, and determination, those three promises are the foundation of personal character strength and mental toughness. I walked in the front door of a hospital. It was a long-term values coach client, but a place I had not been to myself in over a year. I'm walking down the main hallway, and I see a woman coming from the other direction who looks vaguely familiar. And I'm racking my brain for a name, and nothing comes up. And she comes up and says, "Joe Ty, how you doing?" I shake hands with her. I'm looking for a name tag. No name tag. And she says, "You don't recognize me, do you?" And I said, "Well, I have to admit, you look very familiar, but you're going to have to remind me who you are." And she said, "The reason you don't recognize me is since the last time you were here, I've lost more than 100 pounds. I said, "Awesome, congratulations. How'd you do it?" And she said, "Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday." And then to prove to me she could do it, she recited those three promises, responsibility, accountability, and determination, from memory. And what she said is this. She said, as long as I was waiting for someone else to lose the weight for me, the plan, the pill, the diet, the program, whatever it was, it never worked. But I always had someone to blame. "Oh yeah, I tried that diet, it didn't work." As soon as I admitted to myself that I had to be personally responsible, I had to hold myself accountable, I had to be determined to make the changes I needed to make in my attitudes and in my habits, as soon as I did that, I started changing me and changing my outcomes. And just as, like you said it would be, it was really hard at first. But the more I started to see the results in my life, the easier it became. And then she went on to tell me she was doing the same thing with her personal finances. She'd been getting her family out of debt. She was doing the same thing with her career, being more accountable, more responsible, looking for more responsibilities. She had been promoted, and that she was now sharing those things with her family at home and with the people she knew at her church. So she was going from being a student to becoming a teacher. Those three promises are fundamental to personal, emotional, mental values toughness. One more thing about toughness. I've mentioned Steve Pressfield in his book, The War of Art. Highly recommended. You can read that book in a couple hours on a plane flight. And the whole message is, if you want to achieve your goals, you have to turn pro. And by that, he doesn't necessarily mean you're making money or you're part of some big profession. He means you show up every single day ready to go to work. No matter how you feel, no matter what the weather's doing, whether or not you're having a good day or a bad day, whether or not you're making enough money, you show up with your hard hat and your lunch pail and you go to work. That attitude is the quintessence of mental toughness. And let's talk about the fourth cornerstone, which is learning. You've probably heard the saying that it's a shame to waste a good crisis. It's a shame if bad things happen to you and you don't learn anything from it. If you don't have some good come from it, it really is a waste. And when bad things happen to good people, and they do and they will, 4 good things can happen. First good thing is your mama was right. It's good for your character. We do not grow in character in soft, easy situations. What tends to be the best strengthening of character is the adversity we go through and how we deal with it. Anne Morrow Lindbergh wrote a beautiful little book called Gifts from the Sea. And in that book she said, a man is like a tree. You can only take his measure after he's fallen down. Abe Lincoln wrote a letter to one of his generals during the Civil War. And he said, I care not how many times you fall down. I care only how many times you get back up. And that is strength of character. Second thing, good thing that happens in adversity, is we learn more from our failures than we do from our successes. In fact, when good things happen, sometimes it's just luck. Sometimes it's just you're in the right place at the right time. You know, a lot of people during the .com boom learned that. With dogfood.com, paperclips.com, and they made a lot of money short term, but they learned a lot of the wrong lessons. It was though after the .com bust, those who stayed in business and learned the lessons, they're the ones who built successful ongoing companies like Amazon.com, for example. Third good thing happens. You've heard the saying, one door closes, another door opens. The sooner you internalize that thank God ahead of time attitude, the door closes on you, you lose the job, whatever happens, you start looking for the other door, the sooner something positive is going to happen. And finally, it is very often when bad things happen that you meet the people who are most important to you in your life. Something you see all the time in support groups. People who, because of a shared diagnosis of cancer, who because they are both addicted to the same substance, because they've had the same tragedy, end up becoming best of friends. So how do you create that sort of learning mindset during adversity? Probably the most important thing you can do is learn how to and discipline yourself to ask good questions. Instead of why me, what can I do next? Where should I go from here? What meaning do I draw from this? Who can I talk to help me with this particular problem? Asking good questions can help open those doors for you. Let me wrap up with this thought. Years ago, I wrote a book called Never Fear, Never Quit. And one thing that I always have to clarify is this. As I said with the last value, never fear doesn't mean don't be afraid. Remember, the absence of fear is brain damage. It means stand up to your fear and do what you have to do. Never quit doesn't mean don't stop. If what you're doing now isn't working, stop by all means. Go in a different direction. It means don't give up. And it's tragic how many people have given up on themselves, given up on their dreams, and it's just another day, another dollar, long slog through life. Never fear, never quit means have the courage to take a risk, have the courage to stand up to your fear, and then have the determination when you hit those brick walls to go through them, around them, over them, or under them, because as W. Mitchell said, it's not what happens to you, it's what you do about it. And every great accomplishment was once the impossible dream of a dreamer who did not quit when the going got tough. Next time we'll talk about faith, which brings courage and perseverance a new dimension. I'll see you then.